And why are you here? Just because you love to learn? That's not a bad thing, I guess. The snacks. The snacks. So most of you, I would assume, are looking to have some kind of gainful employment after you leave here. As Jane mentioned, my name is Jeff Hume. I am an alum. I'm a computer science major from Dr. Uromchik. I believe Dr. Uromchik's first year here is when I studied under him. So, yes, I'm old. But you're not. You were like 6 when you started here. So it's been a while since I've been here. Jeremy's a little more recent grad.
A little younger, yeah. Yeah, so my name's Jeremy Eaton. I graduated here in 2012, computer science. Went on to join Jeff. I also did 3 internships at UKY-Computer throughout college as well, so I've got a little bit of experience there. A little more recent experience, no offense, Jeff. But we're here just to talk to you about what we see on the other side, right? We're recruiters, we work for business who would be hiring you. We just have a few tips and advice, but just to start it off, let's just talk about what do you even get a job? How do you get a job? Do you send a nice worded letter to Google? Do you send a homing pigeon? What do you do? And this is going to be an auditory.
If you don't participate, it's going to be very boring.
Yes. So throw up some hands, shout it out. What do you do to get a job?
Definitely homing pigeons.
Yeah. No homing pigeons.
Ask my pray.
Pray. That's good. Bingo. That's number 1, I'd say. Go to the
Good
career
option.
fair. Yeah. So I'll tell you, for GE Appliances, we recruit interns and starting professionals for the summer at the fall career fair. So we're talking 9 months out. So if you're not already thinking about the career fair before 9 months out, when you think you want to get a job, you're already behind. All right. So what a career fair? What else? So you go to the career fair, you meet a bunch of businesses, shake their hand, and you get a job. What happens? Good. This is why we're here, to help discuss this. This is great. Well, typically you go to the career fair and you shake hands, and then what do? You hand them a resume, right? Yes, most of you, yes, not. Okay. Resume.
What is the purpose of a resume?
To advertise yourself?
Okay, to advertise yourself.
To feel good about yourself.
Potentially, okay, to feel good about yourself.
If it's your resume, yes.
Well, it didn't look like this, so I don't know.
To communicate?
All right, to communicate. Here's a question. Is the purpose of a resume to get a job? It's a little bit of a trick question. The answer is no. The objective of the resume is to get an interview.
That's exactly right. So before we talk about interviews, let's talk about resumes. What makes a good resume? Do you just kind of list your favorite hobbies? Do you talk about things you like to do after work? Give me, just spread out. What's a good resume?
Applicable skills.
Applicable skills, like what?
Technical, right?
Technical skills, yeah. Coding languages. What do you know? What have your wonderful professors been teaching you how to do? Right, that's good. And a lot of people who are, say, freshman or sophomore will ask me, hey, I don't have any job experience. How do I make a good enough resume? We'll talk about your skills that you've learned obviously in your classes, but also talk about your passions, right? When you get to that interview and you hand them that resume, or even before that, I'm going to look over and I'm going to say, okay, what has this person done? What exemplifies the work that this person's done? If you just list the classes that you've been to, that doesn't necessarily help me. Everybody that I'm interviewing has probably been in the classes that you've been in, right? So I need to know, what are your passions? What are you doing outside of your school to let me know that you really enjoy technology, you really enjoy computer science, you enjoy leading, you enjoy community service, whatever it is. But I want to know what makes you tick, and the resume is the first avenue to do that. What else? What else should you have on your resume?
How to get in touch with you.
How to get in touch with you, yes. Just basic information to let me know how to get in touch. Also, I know, especially in computer science, writing is not my favorite thing to do, but make sure you proofread it, because when I notice a typo on the resume, it tells me, it's not going to disqualify you for your job, but it tells me at least that you're not thorough, right? Also, organize your resume in a format that's easily digestible. Don't give me paragraphs. Give me bullet points are okay, but as long as it tells a story. Okay, what are you learning? What do you know? What do you like to do? And what words, what things qualify you for this job? One resume doesn't fit all, so you need to make sure you're catering your resume to each job. Okay, research the company, research what they're about, research what you think they might want to know. Anything else? There's one more on the top. Education. Yeah, so we talked about classes, but also what are you doing in your free time? What are you learning? What technologies are you learning? What languages, not just languages, but also what platforms? What are you interested in? You could even put what you're interested in learning, especially if you're a freshman or a sophomore. And then also, when you put job experience, only put job experiences if you can defend how that qualifies for your job. So I worked, with the summer before college, I worked at Chick-fil-A. Now, if I just put Chick-fil-A on there, and I'm applying for a software design role, that doesn't really help me out, right? But if I can explain how my experiences at Chick-fil-A helped me become a good worker, you know, I managed customer experiences, I handled payments, I kept even something simple as keeping the dining room spotless, shows work ethic. You need to be able to explain your work experiences in a way that showcases you as available for the next role. All right?
So, what if you have someone who's volunteer? Not been in a
Volunteer.
paid position, but volunteer and it's related to the field. Where should they put that on their resume?
Yeah, so
Or should they put it?
that's an interesting question because it's not necessarily a work experience, but you can have a section solely devoted to volunteer experiences. That's fine. Or you can put it in qualifications, leadership qualifications, leadership experience. That doesn't have to be at a job. You don't have to be paid to be a leader on campus. To give you an example, something that I talked about a lot in my interviews when Jeff actually interviewed me was I led a shoe drive, a campus-wide shoe drive, just because I felt like doing it. And that, rather than all my classes, rather than all of my wonderful professors, that helped me step above and beyond the traditional thing. So we're not just looking for do you meet A, B, and C. We want to see what makes you stand out. Because everyone else got to college just like you. Everyone else took the same classes you did. And the GPA, yes, that gets you in the door. But what your resume tells me that, hey, you want to hire me. You should want to hire me.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Go ahead, do you have a follow-on?
Yes, education abroad experience too. If someone, where would that fit into? And then I will.
No,
list my
questions are great, yeah.
Yeah. If you did something like education abroad, work abroad, absolutely highlight those things, and then be prepared to discuss them further, right? So what advantage did you gain from that? What experience did you learn? How did that expand your thoughts? That kind of a. It's great that you did it. What value is it really going to bring? Now,
I think we had a question from you.
yeah.
Just a quick question. So between hireability and the ability to do the best job, what other, I guess, categories would there be? Or what's the separation between hireability and ability to do the best job at that position?
Okay, so you actually are leading right into my next question. It's not really fair to answer a question with a question, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, what do you think? Like Jeremy and I were here at just after the career fair, and we interviewed 15, 20 students. What do you think we were looking for?
Communication skills.
All right, communication skills.
Would you want to work with
Just throwing out. What's that?
them? Would you want to work with them? Would you be able to?
Okay, so
not standing around, but the ability to be in a workplace with them.
okay, so can you work with other people? Okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Technical skills.
Technical skills, absolutely. We are not just, flipping hamburgers. Nothing wrong with that. That's not what we're looking for,
Go
right?
there.
Personality.
Personality. Believe it or not, even though we are IT folks, we don't go into a cubicle, sit down, never talk to anybody, type on the computer for 8 hours, and then get up and go home. It's not the way it works. What was that? Motivated people. Do I have to tell you everything to do? Or do you have some initiative on your own? Okay?
Is it good?
What else? Yes.
Maybe
Are you still out there trying to improve yourself? Am I just checking the box here, getting a degree because I had to do something? Or is there this desire? I think Jeremy used the word passion. Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you what I look for. That's kind of a, thank you. That's kind of a holistic thing. All these things kind of wrap into this. When I'm looking for recruiting, I look for one, do I see them as a future employee? Would I work with them? That's spot on. Because I'm looking at, not only do you have the qualifications to do the job of my coworker, but are you the person who I would want to work with? So personality, ability to work with, fantastic. But also, especially specifically in the computer science world, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for somebody that can do both leadership and soft skills, as well as coding and improving systems and hardware and everything like that. So I'm looking for both. So if you are strongly one way or strongly the other way, that is almost a disadvantage because I need both, specifically for the roles that we're hiring. So what I like to call that is you're an ambassador. You're an ambassador between the technology and the people. You use the technology to help deliver solutions to the people, and you can take what the people want, what people are asking you for, and translate that into technology. And that's where you see the leaders in IT, the leaders in software maintenance, leaders in software development grow. Coding is great. Learn how to code. Coding is a very fantastic and wonderful skill. Problem solving, all that. Also, learn how to talk. Learn how to do what we're doing right now. Get in front of people and actually have a conversation, not just to a big group, but also in a personal as well. If you can combine those two things, that will lead you to a successful career and also will help you get a job. Right? Because the resume, that's where you kind of show your technical expertise and your experience, but the interview is really important, and we're going to talk about it. The interview can make or break you, and I really wish the interview wasn't just such a powerful force in how you get a job, but that is a key aspect in how you impress the company and move on to the next stage. So, Jeff, you want to talk about the interview?
Yeah, so let's just talk about the reality of what Jeremy just said. For the most part, it doesn't always work this way, but the majority of the time, you're going to come up to maybe me, maybe Jeremy, maybe somebody else at a career fair. You're going to shake a hand, you're going to hand them a resume. We're going to have maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get to know you a little bit. Is there enough there to make me want to know more? Right? That's really what you're trying to accomplish at the career fair or with the resume. Can you make me interested enough to learn more? If your GPA is a 1.9, do I want to know more? Maybe, but I'll tell you something. It is such an easy cut for us. As a matter of fact, with a company like GE Appliances, if you don't have a 3.0, I'm not even allowed to interview you. Reality, your GPA right now is your #1 deliverable. It is not the only thing, but it is a very easy starting point. Okay? It's just a reality. Not every company has that same standard that we do, but it's an easy cut. And I'll tell you, this year, we had a very impressive set of candidates from the University of Kentucky. Very well-rounded, very solid GPAs, work experience, volunteer experience, incredible candidates. We were looking at each other going, we are going to be turning down some very qualified students for internships. It is that tough.
Are you looking at general GPA or technical, or both?
So our standard of a 3.0 is total GPA. Now, are we interested in what your computer science GPA or computer engineering GPA is? Yes. But that 3.0 is total GPA. Okay, go ahead.
Out of the really strong candidates that you said you've seen in the past, how many of those candidates deliver on what you expect?
What's our success rate after we hire? Is that kind of the gist of the question?
What, did they exceed your expectations, or were there some that kind of dropped below what you expected?
In the interview, or when we actually hire them?
After hire.
Okay, after hire, yes. We have had very good success here at UK. I think it's because we have great interviewers, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's
That
why.
must be why. But I'll also tell you this. Here is how we for the most part, do it. We hire summer interns. We can do co-op as well if you prefer a co-op, but most of the time from UK, they're summer interns. And we'll get about a 12-week interaction. You'll get to check us out. We'll get to check you out. We'll see how things are working. And based upon that is when we make an offer for full-time. Now, have we had success every time? Has every intern gone to a full-time hire that has worked out? No. And I do not have the exact stats, but we have hired full-time students from Kentucky most of the last 10
most
years.
every class has had at least one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because a lot of students think, okay, I'm going to do school, and then 6 months before I graduate, that's when I'll start looking for a job. Because we have so many qualified candidates, and because computer science and computer engineering especially have become a lot more popular, people are saying, hey, that's where the money's at, that's where the jobs are at, that's where I want to go. You need to get, whether it's us or somebody else, you need to get in the door before you graduate. And that's just the reality of it. Not only is your GPA the way to a job, but to further jobs, you need to get into a summer internship, a co-op, things like that. Now, not to say we don't hire people after they graduate. We absolutely, if you're qualified, if you've got great experience, all that stuff, and you're graduating 6 months, we will absolutely hire you for a full-time job. But the majority of our hires within the last 3 or 4 years have been from the interns. So if you're not already thinking about internships or even it's volunteer experience, whatever it is, you need to get on the ball, because that is the very base level of getting the next job that you want and the next job after that.
Not a trick question. What is this?
That's your foot.
No, what's under my foot? Golly, it's not it's toolbox, thank you. This was actually very simple. If you remember nothing else, I want you to remember this. When you walk into the interview, bring your toolbox full of tools. Because you don't know what the issue is that you're going to be presented with. And if you need to turn a screw, and the only thing you've got in your toolbox is this, it's going to be hard to accomplish that. What questions are Jeremy and I going to ask when we interview you?
You have a screwdriver.
No, but I have a big pipe wrench.
Problem?
You don't know, right? You don't know. But when we asked you guys what we were looking for, you all threw out great stuff. All right? And every one of you has stories. You have experiences. You have different things that have happened to you. Whether it was in the classroom doing a project, maybe it was a church activity or something in sports, maybe it was work experience that you had somewhere, maybe it was volunteering and doing a shoe drive. Start thinking about those stories. Have them fresh in your mind. And when Jeremy says, tell me about a time when you really feel like you stepped up as a leader and demonstrated who you are as a leader. And you go, that's an interesting question. You may not know that question was going to be coming, but if you have thought through, in Jeremy's case, there was that time back in college when I decided to do a shoe drive. And when I did that, I got this many pairs of shoes, and the way I organized it was doing this, and I got these 15 people to help me, and he's got that story in his head. And what he's done is he's taken a tool, and he's put it in his toolbox. And then he thought about when he worked at Chick-fil-A, and he remembers that time when that really, really rude customer came in and gave him a really hard time about the cold French fries, and how he dealt with that. And how to interact with somebody that's really difficult. And now he took that tool and he put it in his toolbox. And he remembered the classes that he had with Dr. Uranchik and that awful, awful project he had to do when he had to work with those 3 other people and only 2 of them ever showed up. And the challenges that came from that project. What he accomplished, when he was a leader, when he made a tough decision, when he came up to a challenge and had to go maybe be flexible in how he was going to approach something, when he succeeded, when he failed, all those different things. And he takes them and he puts them in his toolbox. And if you walk into the interview with your toolbox full of tools, then no matter what we throw at you, you can take about a couple of seconds and go, oh yeah, we do behavioral-based interviews. We subscribe to the theory that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Future performance is past performance. So we love to ask questions that sound something like, tell me about a time when. But even if we don't, even if you're interviewing somebody that doesn't do that, and they say, tell me what it takes to be a great leader. Well, I can now not only tell you what it takes to be a great leader, but I can tell you when I was and how I did it and what was important to me, because I've come in with my toolbox full of tools. You've got about 20 minutes to make that impression. Now, you've spent 18, 19, 20 years building up to that moment, but you've got about 20 minutes to communicate. You've got to be prepared ahead of time. Jerry, talk about some of the landmines that have.
Landmines, yes.
We don't try to set them, but sometimes it just
It
happens.
just happens, yeah. So if you walk in an interview and I ask you, why'd you pick UK? Don't say, I picked UK because I'm kind of lazy and I just don't feel like walking that much.
Not a hypothetical
Not
situation.
good, all right? Don't tell me that your mom told you that you should go there, all right? Not good. The landmines are almost, you can see them coming from 100 miles away. So if you just rehearse, you're going to dodge about 95% of those landmines. If you bring that toolbox, you're going to dodge those, all right? A few of the landmines. Don't throw your professors under the bus. Because we talk to your professors, right? So, and don't necessarily throw your teammates under the bus. We're going to ask you, tell you a time when you're working with somebody and they just didn't pull their weight. If you talk about how you berated them and how they were just a disgusting person and they didn't wear deodorant and all that kind of stuff, that does not help us understand how you are a good candidate. All right, so avoid some of those landmines. Another landmine that is probably the most common one is putting something on your resume that you can't defend. All right, that resume is kind of a window into your toolbox, right? And I'm going to look at that resume and I'm going to say, okay, oh, yeah, C++, okay, yeah, Python, great, SQL, cool. SQL, can you tell me what the difference between an inner join and an outer join is? And if you struggle with that question, that's going to tell me maybe you don't know SQL, right? And then I'm going to, because I'm kind of sadistic in this way, I'm going to keep digging into that, and the 5 to 10 minutes of the interview is going to be me interviewing about SQL, right? So you need to make your resume such that you can defend every single thing that's on that resume. And so that will keep you from obviously lying, but putting stuff on your resume that not necessarily would help us understand who you are and what you've done. Your resume should be able to provide us the best examples of your work and the best examples of what you bring to the table.
Jeremy, just to follow on to that comment you made about the SQL, do you all routinely ask them to go to the whiteboard and write some code?
For our interviews, we don't routinely ask that unless we sense a weakness. We'll ask you about certain technical experiences, and kind of, if you bring it up, we will continue to dig into it. But no, we won't. We're not looking for somebody who knows Ruby on Rails exactly perfectly. That doesn't tell us very much about the interview. What we want to know is, how do you learn those sort of things, and what are you doing to make sure you're learning those?
But we might ask you, what's the hardest technical challenge you've had to solve? And we'll be listening for what technology you use, what's your analytical way of going about it. Throughout the course of the interview, those things will come out. Jeremy talked about it being that total person. We want a technically astute person, but not necessarily somebody who can go solve a problem through code and build the interview. One other example, not at all uncommon for us to ask just to kind of get things going, tell us about your proudest accomplishment. And a common answer is getting into the University of Kentucky. It's a great accomplishment. What's wrong with that answer in an interview that we're doing on campus?
People were admitted to UK as well, everyone else.
Every single person that we interviewed did that. Okay? So you have done nothing to differentiate yourself if that is the complete end to that answer.
I'm just curious, would that be the same for first generation students?
Great
Okay.
question.
So maybe there's something more to it. And the reason it's such a big deal is because I am the first person in my family to ever go to college. And I had to work really hard, and I paid my own way, and there could be any number of reasons that make that something more than just what everybody else did. But if you don't think about that before you walk into the interview, and that's your answer, and it's a fine accomplishment, right? It's a big deal. Not everybody, in the universe, in this world, in this nation, getting into UK is a big deal. But not for the folks that we're interviewing. You gotta know who your competition is, if you will.
And a lot of times we're looking for the why. Why is that a big deal? Why are you most proud about that? Because we want to know, it's very behavioral. We want to know, how did you approach the problem? What challenges did you overcome? What qualities about yourself do you admire? Because that will tell us more about who you become and who you are as a coworker than, I raised $1 million. Well, it's great that you raised $1 million. How did you do it? What did you do? What led you to do that? Why did you do it? We want to get into the kind of understanding of who you are more so than what have you accomplished to this point.
You tend to ask negative questions like, what do you not like about yourself? What are you not proud of? Or do you avoid those questions?
Take more than 20 minutes.
So the answer is we absolutely, it would not at all be uncommon for me to ask you something along the lines of, tell me about a time where you really weren't proud of your performance. Now, why might I ask that question? To see how you rebounded, right? It's a great perspective. You tell me this horrible story of this great failure, and it just ends there.
Which has happened.
Which does happen, right? But if you have but then the next time that happened, the next semester that happened, and here's how I handled that, and I flipped that around, or that really showed me where I had a deficiency, and so the next semester I spent extra time with the professor, and whatever the case might be. We love to see how people learn from past failures, because we all have them, right? If you aren't failing, you aren't trying. It's just a reality.
I know we're late on time. We've got a couple of questions.
So what about, we talked a lot about communication and speaking, but we haven't talked about nonverbal yet, body language.
Yeah, that is very much what the interview includes, right? If you come to an interview and you do not look me in the eye, and you're just, I feel like I'm interrupting your day, that's not good. I want you to bring energy and passion to that interview, because that's
Or
very
you're
much
looking
part of
at
that
your phone.
personal. Yeah, don't look at your phone.
Don't bring your phone.
Put it on silent, put it on stun mode. I don't want to hear your phone during the interview. The interpersonal, very much nonverbal, because we all judge each other off nonverbal, whether we know it or not, and that's a huge part of how you interact with people.
And so, being dressed to the nines is not the most important thing, but if you didn't care enough to look sharp for the interview, it tells us something.
It's a data point.
Right?
Yeah, it may not be
It's a piece of the
total
puzzle.
point.
It's a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
We're taking a leap of faith on someone that didn't show some of these characteristics in order to see if they will those.
Okay, so the question is, do we ever take a leap of faith? The answer is very rarely, and the primary reason is that while I've worked for GE Appliances for almost 27 years now, I love the company. We do a lot of good stuff. We do a lot of volunteerism. We're very involved in the community. But at the end of the day, we do not exist as a benevolence group. We exist to return value to our shareholders. So we're not really interested in unnecessary risk. So generally, we see enough top-notch candidates that have the whole package that we don't need to take the risk. But I will give you one example. 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe.
Oh, 4 or 5. You're talking about Kyle?
I'm talking about Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows. Was actually interviewing here on campus at the Career Center, and I asked a question, and he goes, I passed out cold, hit his head on the desk, broke his glasses, went to the floor, and is out cold. It was I'll never forget this interview, and it's kind of interesting. So anyway, obviously I stopped, yelled for help. He came to, was kind of like, oh, what just happened? There was just something in this interview. It's like, I want to give this guy another chance. When I got back to, we didn't finish the interview then because he was a mess. But I actually had my boss call him, do a phone screen, and he's actually still an employee of the General Electric Company today. So there are examples. Now, if you're sitting here going, oh my goodness, these guys have talked about all this well-rounded stuff and I don't have any of that. My first response to you is, yes, you do. You have more than you think. You need to spend some time thinking about what are your life experiences? What have you done? If your GPA stinks, work hard at getting it built back up. Retake a class if you need to. You can put that effort in. And then start thinking about jobs, volunteer things, events that you've done. Life is happening around all of us all the time. And you can start to pull out where, oh, you know what? I was a leader in that situation, and here's how I can tell that story. My son is actually a freshman here, just decided to be a computer science major. He has very little IT experience right now. So I just told him, it's not too late, but you got to start working hard. You got to start showing that passion, because he in EGR 101 or 102 or one of them he's taken, he discovered that wow, he really likes to do code. So he's now got to start looking for those opportunities. You can do extra stuff with the professor. You can get more of the clubs. You can go career fair, get an internship. There's all kinds of ways to start building that resume.
And one of the things we're hearing is that just going out and working on some of these open source projects and then having your code in your own GitHub, then prospective employers can look.
Jeremy, do we like to hear that people have gone out and done stuff on their own and they've got their own GitHub?
We love it.
Oh, yeah.
We love it. You could talk half the interview about a phone application that you coded, and we eat it up, right? It's something that you're doing above and beyond.
How many people that we talk to have taken all the classes they need at that point, right? So just doing the classwork is great, but everybody else has done it. But if you've gone out, you've got your own GitHub, and you're working on some app, right? That tells us something about you.
And it shows you have a passion for it.
Yes.
We want people who have a passion for technology. If you're in computer science just to get money or just because that's what the roll the dice, we can detect that, right? We want to tell that you are going to enjoy working in this field.